Last season, there wasn't a tight end that came within 90 fantasy points of Travis Kelce. After the tight end one finish, once again, Travis Kelce, it was wide open at an often scarce tight end position where you can absolutely get massive value in the later rounds, which is why I love targeting some of these late round tight ends who have the ton of untapped potential, upside, and a high ceiling that everyone seems to be ignoring right now. So if you're not getting the Travis Kelce in the early goings of the draft, or of course the Mark Andrews and the George Kittles, who could also, or are live to have a huge season, I've got 6 tight ends for you that I'll be drafting after the 10th round that I think can absolutely lead the way at the position and help you win your leagues in 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on these guys and who your favorite late round picks are at the tight end position for this season, because there's going to be a lot of them with a ton of question marks and a high ceiling as well. Let's make it happen. Number 1 is Chigozie Okonwu. Now, if you watched any of my daily fantasy content on our daily fantasy channel last year, it's Stochastic, you know I absolutely love this guy, and we had him pop off for a couple of weeks and he did us well in daily fantasy. But he was mostly off the radar until late in the season in seasonal fantasy leagues. But this year, I think it's a perfect time to pounce on Chigozie Okonwu going into 2023. He showed insane flashes as a rookie, even when he wasn't really getting much of an opportunity. You're talking about a guy in Okonwu that averaged 14 yards per reception, which was best in the league among all tight ends with at least 25 targets. He was targeted 45 times, and he made a lot of explosive plays along the way. Listen to this: 3 receptions for 40 plus yards, 7 for 20 plus, despite finishing with only 32 catches, which means that 22% of Okonwu's receptions on the year went for 20 plus yards. He led all tight ends with a ridiculous 2.65 yards per route run and was targeted on 26% of the routes that he did run on the year. And while he was targeted only 6 times in the red zone, fellow Titans tight ends Austin Hooper and Jeff Swaim combined for 12 targets inside the 20, and neither of them are in Tennessee anymore. Okonwu was super efficient despite being scarcely used for most of the year, but now he's going into his 2nd season as a pro, and we know how rookie pass-catching tight ends often struggle anyway. There's little competition for targets anywhere outside of Treylon Burks. Okay, that's not true. I recorded this video before DeAndre Hopkins got signed, and we didn't get it up on YouTube yet. Unfortunately, it's up now, but everything else we've talked about still remains the same, outside of the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is in Tennessee now. We did know this could happen, so Okonwu's ADP hasn't really changed much. He's still a beast, and there's a bunch more stuff I'm going to get into right now. So, DeAndre Hopkins in Tennessee, yes. Everything else is still great. And for all we know, Treylon Burks just might not be that good anyway. But listen, and you can make up your mind for yourself. And Okonwu could have the opportunity to make a massive impact at a typically shallow tight end position. Now, we just have to hope the quarterback situation is stable enough for him not to fall victim to a terrible offense. Still, I'm drafting Okonwu everywhere as the tight end 11 with an ADP of 129 outside of the 10th round because the ceiling is just too high for me not to. Number 2, Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich spent his rookie campaign having to deal with poor quarterback play and even worse coaching. Honestly, Nathaniel Hackett making it to Christmas before getting fired, truly one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen in the National Football League. But despite all of the turmoil that plagued the Broncos all season long, Dulcich still posted double-digit fantasy points in 5 of the 10 games he played, and he was targeted 8+ times in 4 of them. Sean Payton is objectively a huge upgrade from Hackett, though, and honestly, you probably would be too. And he's spoken highly of Dulcich since coming to Denver anyway. There's also reason to believe that they can right this ship in Denver, but they don't have to make it perfect. Like, just make things not close to as bad as they were in 2022, and Dulcich is going to be in good hands. But the thing that stands out the most is that in the 10 games where Dulcich was healthy, he was on the field a ton, and he ran routes on 80% of quarterback dropbacks. Look at it this way. You're drafting him as a high-end tight end too, so he didn't even have to be your tight end 1, but he has legitimate middle tight end 1 upside in 2023. Like I said, once you get past Kelce and we can throw, Hawkinson, Kittle, and Mark Andrews into that bunch, it is wide open. So why are we not taking shots on post 10th, 11th, 12th round guys like Dulcich, like Okonwu, and the guys that we're going to talk about later in this video? We've seen how many times elite talents at a tight end position. And listen, it's not like this is some 6th round draft pick in Dulcich. We've seen how they can take huge steps in their second year. And that's why so many of the guys that I've talked about and I'm going to talk about in this video are second year players, just like Greg Dulcich. Number 3, Dalton Schultz, 14th tight end off the board, has an ADP of 139. Now, Dalton Schultz isn't a player who we should expect any huge leap forward from what we saw in 2021. And honestly, I don't envision him becoming a top 5 tight end anytime soon. But the reason I'm mentioning Schultz in this video, and it's unlike most of the guys we're going to talk about, is because I think he makes a lot of sense at the tight end 14 spot for one reason: volume. Looking at the competition for targets surrounding Schultz in Houston shouldn't exactly strike fear into the hearts of anybody this season. I mean, Robert Woods is the de facto wide receiver 1, and he was putrid in Tennessee last year. I don't see a rookie quarterback fixing things for him anytime soon either. Then you have Nico Collins, the 3rd round draft pick from 2021, who could be good, honestly, but we really have no idea. And then John Mechie. He hasn't played a single snap at the NFL level yet. He was out all of last season as a rookie. Then there's Noah Brown and Tank Dell too, but you get the point. CJ Stroud could absolutely lean on Schultz as a safety blanket this year, especially considering how weak his wide receiver options are. And while Schultz had a disappointing season in Dallas last year, coming off a great 2021, he still led the Cowboys in red zone targets with 16 despite playing only 15 games. So we absolutely know that he's useful there. If you're waiting late to draft a tight end, look at it this way. Or you can't get to any of those guys you really liked inside the top 12, or maybe any of the really early tight ends going at a high ADP, I have no issues. I like the idea, as a matter of fact, of grabbing Schultz as a safe, low upside tight end, and then taking a shot on some of those high upside flyer tight ends that we're going to talk about later in this video that you're going to be able to get later in the draft. If you haven't signed up on Underdog Fantasy yet, then you truly must not love fantasy football. Because while you're sitting around and researching, waiting for your drafts to commence in August and early September, we've already been drafting. They got a $15 million prize pool on their best ball contest already out and running. They got the puppy, $5 to enter, $1 million prize pool. And when you sign up, they're matching your deposit bonus up to $100 at 100%, which means you put $100 in, you got 200 now. Hell, you only put 20 in, now you got 40. If you're not drafting already, what are you doing? We're drafting all through the spring and into the summer, as many lineups as we possibly can. That's what loving fantasy football really comes down to, especially when they got contests with $3 million up top to first place this year. Best ball is the way to do it. You don't have to make roster moves. You don't have to set your lineup every week. You don't have to do any of that. You draft your best team, and there it is, the same team throughout the entirety of the season. And you can draft as many of them as you want. Over at Underdog Fantasy, we got the link in the description and in the chat. You click that, you sign up, get your deposit bonus, and start drafting in June, July, whenever it is. But don't be the guy that waits to August or September to get some lineups in. We're already in business, baby, and it's happening at Underdog Fantasy. Number 4, Cole Kmet. Man, this guy broke a lot of hearts earlier last season. But Cole Kmet was a tale of two halves in 2022. Through his first 8 games, Kmet was the tight end 36 in fantasy points per game. Remember the first 2 weeks of the season where he didn't have a single reception and was targeted once in each of those games? Then over his last 9 games, Kmet had several blow-up performances and clocked in as the tight end 4. Again, tight end 4, when you're comparing it to the tight end 1 and 2 over that span, it definitely there's a big drop off, but still the tight end 4, he's being drafted as the tight end 16 right now. Look at this. 6 of his 7 touchdowns came in the second half of the season. He averaged 5.5 targets per game over that stretch compared to 2.5 targets per game over the first 8 weeks. And this also coincided with Matt Eberflus beginning to actually put Justin Fields in more favorable situations as a passer. And the Bears offense actually started looking moderately competent for a stretch there. There's still a lot of question marks here. Like, will a completely overhauled offensive line be an upgrade from last year? My assumption is it will, but I don't know how much. And also, will the Bears throw enough to support a big season from Kmet? But one would have to think that Eberflus knows the Bears can't win with Fields running as many times as he throws each week, especially when they've made a significant effort to give him more weapons this season. And how about this? In 2022, Kmet ran routes on 87% of quarterback dropbacks and was on the field for 95% of snaps from week 3 onward. As the guy who finished as the tight end 4 over the second half of the season, I get it. DJ Moore is there now. Darnell Mooney was hurt for a stretch. But I still don't see the reason anyone should be drafting him as the tight end 16. Now, don't go and reach on him, but if you're getting him as the tight end 16 outside of the 12th round, I'll take that all day. It's good value for Cole Kmet. Number 5, Sam LaPorta. Sam LaPorta is probably the only rookie tight end I'm relatively excited about this year. And I'm only talking year 1, not dynasty, because obviously Dalton Kincaid has all the talent in the world to be great on an elite offense. But you still have Dawson Knox there in Buffalo. And yes, I know they'll be used differently, but still. And the Bills have no shortage of weapons out there who are going to command a lot of targets on top of that. You have Michael Mayer, who was drafted only 10 picks after Kincaid. He could also have an awesome career, probably will. But the quarterback situation in Vegas right now is worrisome enough, not to mention we're talking about rookie tight ends here. So why LaPorta as the tight end 20? He went 1 pick ahead of Mayer and found a more favorable landing spot for year 1, in my opinion. Because of the 29 touchdowns that Jared Goff threw last year, 12 of them went to tight ends. And 10 of his 25 targets inside the 5-yard line went to LaPorta's position too. He should start right away, and I expect him to play a significant role in the Lions offense, even more so with Jameson Williams being suspended for the first 6 games. And we should, yes, definitely temper expectations with a rookie tight end. It's really the theme of this video. And it's true that he only scored 5 touchdowns at Iowa, but in the 14th round, I'm not really sure where the risk lies. LaPorta's high draft capital, very evident talent, and lack of competition at his position really should make him one of the most interesting rookie tight ends out there for 2023. So I think taking some shots in these late rounds makes some sense. And finally, at number 6, get ready for this one, Jelani Woods, 31st tight end off the board, ADP of 212 right now on Underdog Fantasy. Jelani Woods is my favorite insane late round flyer tight end for 2023. He's going to be a complete afterthought in drafts, but you should absolutely be taking shots on this guy with your last pick. That's all it is. It's your last pick. I mean, these guys aren't poised to work out anyway. So why not take a shot on an absolute behemoth of a human being who stands 6'7", 265 pounds, and is a freakish athlete for this size of a man? Player Profiler has Jelani Woods with a 94th percentile speed score and a 98th percentile catch radius. And according to Relative Athletic Score, he scored a 10 out of 10. I mean, we're legitimately talking about one of the most athletic tight ends that we've ever seen. So why in the world would you not want to take a flyer out on this guy at absolutely zero cost to you? Yeah, the red flags are obvious. I get it. You got a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson and a tight end room that still has Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox for whatever that's worth. But it's entirely plausible that Woods' skill set and athleticism is just too great for him to come off the field. He's going into his second year, and we already know what some of these ultimately elite tight ends have done in their second year in the NFL. But we already saw flashes as a rookie. He had a 2-touchdown game in week 3 against Kansas City last year, a 98-yard performance, 8 receptions on 9 targets against Pittsburgh later in the season. Listen, don't go out and draft the guy who has no untapped potential. We already know who he is with your last pick and be like, oh, I guess this will do. Instead, take a potential breakout stud in Woods. And if it doesn't pan out, it makes literally no difference. But if it does, you're sitting there with a potential tight end 1 that you paid nothing for, that has freakish athleticism and is a monster at his position. Appreciate you guys watching. As always, we'll be back for a whole lot more throughout the summer leading up to the season. So don't go anywhere. And remember, subscribe to the Stochastic Fantasy Football channel, and we'll catch you back here for the next one. Peace.